Hi friends. So it's the first time that I'm trying this YouTube live, and let me know if you can see me because it shows that I'm live. Let's see. Yeah, so I'm live now. Wonderful. So let's start the training. Lovely. Let's start the training. So I'm so excited. This is the first time that I'm doing it. And the topic that I chose is teach, which is also called as structured teaching. Uh, we all know that behavior of any child, when we have to measure, when we have to work on the behavior of any child, we have something called as an A, B, and C. These are the three ways by which we check the behavior of any child. Before I move ahead with my presentation, I wanted to make a small little, a small little note that I wanted to share. That is, this is just what I feel. This is my understanding of teach. It is not a certification. It is not a I'm not endorsing anything. I'm just sharing how I use teach and how it helped me as a therapist to help the kids who come to me in the last 17 years of my practice. So teach, if I would like to share my screen with you so you can see what I'm talking about. So here's the screen. The teach approach means the teach is a short form for treatment and education of autistic and communication handicapped children. So that's what teach stands for. It is also called as structured teaching. If I go to the next slide, I've written A, B, and C. So when I say A, it means the antecedent for a behavior, which means what exactly happened just before the behavior. So for example, if I talk about a child shouting or screaming or, a tantrum behavior, then A would be what exactly just happened before the shouting and the screaming that happened. Okay, and then B is behavior, C is the consequence. So C means what is it that I did, or what is it that the caregiver did to take care of the behavior. So that's the A, B, and C of a behavior. When I talk of structured teaching, I'm talking about the A part of it, the antecedent. So we're majorly working on the antecedent, which means what exactly happens just before the behavior. All right, then we go to the goals about why people use teach, So when we say goals, one is to establish predictability so that, the child knows what is expected and to prepare the child in advance. I will be going and I will be talking more about these in the slides that follow. Now I go to why structured teaching. Again, the same reasons as I mentioned, it makes things predictable for kids. Kids know what is expected out of them and it makes things easy for them, because of which the child complies faster. The child will listen to you because the child knows what is expected out of him. Now we go to the structured teaching, and if you see, it has various, what I would say, levels or various components, rather, not levels. So there are components. So if you see down here, that is the physical structure, which I will talk about in details. Then it has this visual schedule, which also I would talk in details. To talk about physical structure, it would mean anything by which I adjust the environment so that the child knows what is expected. More of it would be explained later. Then we see the visual schedule over here. Visual schedule is something like a timetable, like how we follow a timetable, or a checklist, like how we have. Okay. Then we go to the work systems. Work systems also more about moving from left to right and moving from top to bottom. So these are the various things that are used in teach. So let's go back again. It says physical structure, visual schedule, and work systems. And then comes routines and strategies, which means how to use all of those things into my day-to-day practice, into my day-to-day living with my children. Okay. Then I go to the next slide. It says these are the levels of structure teaching. Again, as we discussed, the physical structure, the visual schedule, and the work system. I will be explaining all of these. So just stay with me. You will get it very well. You will get to know what I'm talking about. Let's go to the next one now. It is about use of physical structure in our day-to-day lives. Now, we as adults also use a lot of physical structure. Okay, so some of the examples would be the footpath. We know where to walk. We know that this is the path. This photo has there's a big lawn, but this is a place. So it's physically demarcating the lawn, and it shows us that this is the path where we can walk. Same way we have jogging tracks. People know where to run. And another example would be like in a busy street, there are footpaths on the side. So people know which is the place for vehicles and which is the place for the pedestrians to walk. So it's very, very clear. That's what I mean by physical structure, where the physical environment is what you call structured. Okay. Next is the payment queues. So if you see, these are the rope queues that are there, when we go to pay bills. Even in banks, you would see these kinds of things. So they help us to know that this is the first queue, this is the second queue. So payment queues, the rope queues which they pull, is also an example of physical structure. The airport queues, if you see, there are these, and then even at the airport, you would see the rope queues, that are there. So these are all examples of physical structure in our day-to-day life. Now, another thing that I wanted to share was, there is also, when we go for a security checkup at this airport, there's a yellow line. So we know that we have to stop at that yellow line. And when we stop there, and then when that lady or the person, whosoever, the security person calls us, that's when we go for the checkup, the security checkup. So those are all very clear examples of physical structure. It helps us to know what is expected out of us as adults. The same way physical structure is needed for our kids, be it a child with autism, be it a child with special needs, be it any other child who has I would say no challenges. We have no challenges, but still the environment is modified in such a way so that things are made predictable to us. It helps us. Moving ahead, if you see physical structure, it is a form of visual cue. It gives us a visual cue about what is expected for kids and even for us as adults. Establishes clear visual and of physical boundaries. So it tells us proper physical boundaries, and there are ways of changing the physical structuring so that the child understands better. If I move ahead, if you see this kind of a photo, it shows the desk of the child, which is over here. If you can see my arrow. So this is the desk, and this is the left side of the child. So he will start his task over here on the left, and he will put it onto the right. This is the work area from where he can take his stuff, sit at this table, take things from the left. There are these 3 baskets, take one at a time, and put them onto that white basket there, which is the finished basket. So that's how the physical environment is structured, so that the child knows. Because many a times if we tell the child, okay, we are going to do some work, but what work, how much work, after how many activities will the child get a break, all that is not explained, and that gives the behavioral problems or the difficulties that we see while we interact with our kids. If you see over here, let me see if my arrow shows you. Yeah, see, if you see here, there's a diamond, there's a square, there's a circle. Now, these are the pictures which are put on these trays. And sometimes what the child does is matches the activity to activity. They know that this is the first activity to be done, then there's another activity to be done. So this is a very good example of physical structure. Next example would be here. Now this boy, he's crying, but then he knows that this is the circle into which he's supposed to stand, and this is the circle where the therapist is supposed to stand. So this is another good example of physical structuring. So same way, if I have a lot of kids, if I have, let me just come back to this mode where I am stopping the screen share and I'm available here. So sometimes what happens is if I have a lot of kids together in a classroom, and if I have a child who is not understanding what is expected, then what we do is I remember I have used the doormats that I keep. So I can have a green doormat, I can have a yellow doormat, I can have a blue doormat, and I just tell the child, go and stand on the green doormat. That is your place. So the child, in a big space, he's not overwhelmed, he's not confused about where to stand and what is expected out of the child. That's what it is about, physical structure. Another thing that we do very commonly is we make a line. We draw a line with a masking tape or with a washable crayon. In fact, if you see in many shopping malls, they have those lines, place from where the trolley should be passed and those kinds of things. So those are all clear examples of physical structure. So that's what is teach. That's one component of teach, which is the physical structure. Let's go back to the slideshow. Give me a minute. I'll just change the screen, and here I am. And I go to my 1 minute. Let me go to my screenshot. So on my slide share. So now if I talk about the next component, that is called as visual schedules. Now this tells us what activities will occur and in what sequence. So it allows the student to predict what will happen next. It tells the what means what is expected. Is it fixing blocks? Is it matching puzzles? Is it writing? Where? And so it means that where am I going to do the task and when am I going to do the task? So the time would be mentioned. It can be used from left to right or top to bottom. Let's go to the next slide and you will see this example. I don't know how clear it is, but this is what we use. This is a platform swing which a therapist has drawn, number one. So the child knows that first we do the platform swing, which is astronaut training. After that, if suppose this activity is done, then either the child puts a tick or we erase this. So when we do that, the child knows that one activity is over. It also tells me how many activities I would be doing in my session. It tells me. So if I go 1 second, I think I have not shared the right screen with you. Give me a minute. And if I go here and if I stop sharing, give me a minute. Here I am. I think you can see me now. And now I go to screen share. I go to the application. And I go to this. I think, can you see this now? Can you see the screen? So visual schedule is something like a timetable. I don't know. Let me just see what is it that you can see now. I think what you can see, oopsie. Now I think I've shared it and I would want to share this screen. Yeah, is it clear? Great. So I'm sorry for that glitch. Now, so visual schedule would be about this platform swing. So the child knows, one is that he knows that first it would be platform swing, then it would be the ladder, then it would be the trapeze, and then it will be the flexion swing. So the child knows that there are going to be 4 activities that would happen. Okay, somewhere I think I'm getting stuck. 1 second. Let me stop. And I'm not able to share the screen. Let me get it back. I come here. And I think now it should happen. Let me see. Is it happening now? All right. So let's see. Let's just move ahead and let's see what happens now. All right. So when I say visual schedule, if you would see is that there are pictures of which are like top to bottom, which shows that what is expected. It would be, top to bottom. So when I say it would involve, like as I said, the platform swing, this is a very simple schedule. When I do the schedule with kids, I sometimes, meaning with the kids who are a little high functioning, I let them put the timing also. So they say 9 to 9:30 or 9 to 9:15, I would do astronaut. And 9:15 to 9:30, I would do ladder jumping. So, the child is very, very clear in terms of the timing about what is expected, how long to do each activity, and by when will it get over. In fact, after this number 4 over here at the flexion swing, I would draw a home, which shows that it's time to go back home. So that's how I go top to bottom. At one point of time, I would use only 4 pictures. I do not use too many pictures. Now, if you see, now this is a visual schedule which has written words on it. Now, this would be obviously for a child who can read. It really helps them to structure their time. It's something like a timetable. But now if I go to the next one, if you see, we've used pictures. We've used the picture of a trampoline so the child knows, jumping time. Next is a picture of the platform swing. May not be very clear, but that's a platform swing with the balls around. And the third picture is of baskets kept over there. And the last is what is called as trapeze hanging. So now these are examples of using the visual schedule using pictures. So if I see before, it was written words, which I would do with a child who understands language and can read well. For a child who does not understand language too much and who cannot read very well, I would move to pictures. There are some people who, some kids with whom I've used even just the objects. Now, when I'm saying trampoline, I can't have a model of the trampoline, but I can have a picture. Like if I'm doing a day-to-day task, I can have a picture of a toothbrush. I can have a picture of I can use an object. I can use a toothbrush, so I can use, if I go back, I can use the words, I can use the pictures, or I can use the objects to work on visual schedule. All right. Now, icons can be used. So this is an example of how icons are used, and this is how it is. Now, this person has taken 5 activities. I personally do not take 5 things at one time. I take only 4 at a time, but it's very clear. So now when I do shower, there is usually, so if I go, let me just come back to my mode where I can see you. Give me a minute and I'm back. Where am I back? Here. Okay, and I stop. Yeah, so when I have, usually when I work with a child, we use all of them. We use the text, we use the pictures, we use the icons. Usually we take a card if I'm taking, and behind the card there's a Velcro, and on the board we have a Velcro. So the card is stuck, on the board, the visual schedule board. Now, if this is the card, then this card is removed and it goes into the finished basket. So the child knows that one activity is over. So we have something like a finished envelope or a finished basket. So the child is very clear. So we have to be very clear that the activity has started and very clear with the fact that the activity has ended. So far now we spoke about 2 components. Okay, so we spoke about the physical structure, how to use the physical structure. So instead of giving an instruction, come on, all of you stand, very clear visual cue. That's the physical structure. Visual schedule, where we spoke about how to use the text, how to use pictures, and how to use objects, how to use icons. At one point of time, I will use only 4 pictures. That's how I prefer to do. You could do whichever way, but I wouldn't recommend using more than 5 pictures at one time. So that's a visual schedule. With kids who are very, what I would say, who understand better, I would use the time along with it, which means that it's very clear to the child that they start at 9 o'clock. The first activity is done by 9:10 or by 9:15, so they'll learn to organize time also. Coming back to my screen, coming back to my slides, 1 second, let me come here, and here I am, I think. Yeah, so visual schedules, we did that. Visual schedules using icons. This person has used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I wouldn't use so many. Just take this as an example of icons, but I wouldn't recommend using so many while working with kids, unless and until your child is too, high functioning. But even if it is high functioning, I wouldn't recommend so many, Transitions. Now, when I talk about transitions, now if I take this picture here, okay, and so for example, if you see, there are crosses from Sunday, that is the 1st of, I don't know which month is this, assuming it's 1st October to 12th October. So I would use a visual schedule in this manner for a child to know that, say, I'm just giving a random example, that the child has no school from 1st October to 12th October. So the child knows. So on the 1st, I put a cross and I say, see, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, so many days you will not have school, Or if it is about a parent who's gone out of town, or if it is about a maid not coming, or if it's about a shadow teacher not coming, these are the changes that happen in a child's life. So those are the crosses which help the child to know that, my dad is out of town, or my nanny is out of town, or my grandmom is out of town, whatever change that is happening in that child's life. So that's about how to use a calendar. So it will really help us to prepare a child for a transition. This example, if you see the picture onto the next side, you would see that it has been circled as a special day. So I would start preparing the child a week in advance, that 11th, then there is 12th, then there is 13th, and on 16th, we're going to get something special. So it's very clear to the child that that he would get what he wants. Then I move ahead, and if you see that the visual schedules can be used during transitions as a portable schedule. So it means, there are Velcro strips. So let me come back again 1 second to the mode where I can see you. And here I am. Great. So when I'm talking about transition, which means there are many kids, who carry the schedules along with them. Because if I'm going, say, for therapy, then if I'm in the auto, then I will be in therapy. After that, maybe I'll go to school, then I would come back home. So there are 4 things. Then I would give those pictures to the child. I would carry them the way you saw in the photo. So I would carry those pictures along with me. And when I carry them, I would be removing each picture as it is finished, as it is done. I would remove the picture so that the child knows that that particular activity is over. The main way that I remember, teach is clear beginning, clear ending. That's the main thing. Left to right, top to bottom, clear visual schedules. This is the major thing. If you don't get anything out of this whole training or whatever talk that I'm doing, the main thing to take away is using visual schedules, for using visual cues, not schedules, visual cues, having a clear beginning and a very clear ending. That is what it is. Let me show you now the next part of the picture of my slide. And now, if you see, it goes to visual schedule. So I can use them as first and then cards. So now this girl was told that you first roll in this barrel. Now that is also very clearly conveyed. Huh? It is very clear that you have to roll in this barrel for, say, 5 rounds, and then you get your lace chips. So it's very, very clear to the child. Now, use of visual schedules in our day-to-day life. Now, if I see how do we use the visual schedules, we also maintain a diary. We put things like, pay your bills, wash the car, get the laundry, and there's like a whole lot of things that we plan for ourselves. Now, why is it that I'm sharing this with you? It's simply because many parents, okay, they usually ask me, 1 second. Here I am. So because many parents, they usually ask me, when do I stop using visual schedules? When do I stop modifying the physical environment? But ideally, it is done for us also. So we don't have to remove them, it will be a part of your child's life. I would move them to clock, which is what we also use. I would move them to calendar, which is also what we use, So the things which I would move them to a watch, wristwatch. So those are ways by which we use visual schedules. So we can just shift them to that, what I would say, day-to-day functional use of visual cues, rather than we taking it out completely, So that's one thing. And now, going back to my slideshow, and here I am. So we said that we use the visual schedules in our day-to-day life also. So it says now, this is important. We do not fade schedules from our students. They are tools for lifelong independence. It's important that they stay with them. Rather, we design schedules to grow with our kids. For example, we introduce the blank card or the surprise card. Now I'll tell you what I mean by this. A blank card or a surprise card. Let me go back behind. Say I'm over here. Okay, so if I have a visual schedule like this, and the child is learning to follow this, what you call the schedule. So he will always ask me for a trampoline. See, of course, I can change. I will not always start with a trampoline. I will not always have the platform swing. I will change the activities that I'm doing. I may do platform swing at number 4. I may do the the trampoline at number 4. I may do the platform swing at number 1. So I can change the way I'm doing it. But still, it sometimes happens that the child gets used to this way of doing things. So what I would do is, I would have a blank card over here. Not in the beginning. Maybe at number 2 would be a blank card. So then I tell the child that, number 1 is trampoline, assuming that number 2 is a blank card, and number 3 is my baskets, and number 4 is the trapeze. So then when it is a blank card, I ask the child, what is it that you want to do today? And then the child learns, oh, even I can choose. So I'm encouraging decision making, but I'm still using visual schedule. I hope that makes sense. Same way, what I could do is the same schedule. Let me go to a different one. So suppose if I have this written word schedule, so I can have my astronaut training, ladder jumping, and I can have, instead of trapeze, it would be called as a surprise card. And then I would have a flexion swing. So when I say a surprise card, it means that I would finish the 2 activities, and then I'll tell the child, you know what, there's a surprise, and I give the child something that the child loves to do. So I could give the child maybe blowing bubbles or reading a book or whatever that is your child's favorite activity. So the child understands, oh, blank card means, one second, let me come back here. Here I am back again. So when I say there's a blank card, it means that the child is learning that I have to do decision making. And when there's a surprise card, the child learns that there are surprises, there are changes in schedule. So I am teaching them that there is predictability, but in that structure of predictability, there is also change that is happening, which is very important. Yeah. Now, when I have a surprise card, I start with good surprises initially. So it would be like your favorite task, blowing bubbles. So if I take a schedule of home, I would have something like study time, and I may have, I may have study time, I may have go down and play, I may have come back and watch TV and eat your dinner. Okay, so if suppose these are the 4 things, then instead of go down and play, I can have a surprise card which would say that we go to McDonald's instead of eating dinner at home. So which is like a wow surprise card for the child. And later, once the child gets used to this, what I would say, getting comfortable with the changes that are happening, I will start introducing surprises which are not so good. So which means that instead of going to McDonald's, and that is a part of the schedule, I may remove it and I may say, you know what, instead of the McDonald's, today we plan to eat at home. So it's not a good surprise, but then the child is getting used to the changes that happens in their schedule. Yeah. Let's move ahead and let's see what I have. I go here and I go to my slideshow. All right, so we did this, we did all of these. So this is the transitions that we discussed. We did the visual schedule, we did this, we did the blank card, surprise card. You see this year, they have a blank card which is kept over here. But I wouldn't keep it in the end, I would keep it somewhere in between, so that the child decides. Then there's a work system. So work system is a systematic visual way to say what work to do. So it would be a picture of, say, writing and doing a worksheet. How much work? So I may have 3 worksheets kept. When am I finished? When 3 worksheets are done, then you put them in the finish basket and it's done. Then what happens next? So after those 3 worksheets, there's a photo of blocks, So we use a left to right or a top to bottom approach. So it's very clear to the child. Okay, after 3 worksheets, you have to do blocks and you have to fix 10 blocks and then it's done. It's extremely clear. That's what we mean by work system. So here is an example. This is the activity basket. The child would sit here facing and the child will pick up the activity that's supposed to be done, do it on the table and then finish it and put it into the finish basket. When all the activities from this activity basket are over, when they move into the finish basket, the child knows that the activity is done and it is over. Moving ahead, these are some examples. And this is a very, very good example. It just means that you finish matching these many things and then your activity is over. You just match plane with plane, boat with boat, train with train. So it's a very basic example of a work system. Now, this is another thing that I wanted to really emphasize, which means like, now this is a picture of, I think it's a burger store. I remember going to Domino's and I remember ordering. And when we had ordered the pizza and while we were waiting, let me come back and let me see you all 1 minute. So I come back. Here I am. So when I remember I had gone to Domino's, so we had this person on the left side who was, taking the flour, the maida, the fine refined flour. The next one was maybe kneading it and making like nice balls out of it. The person next to him was making like a, he was like throwing it up, tossing it up in the air to make like a big thing. The person next to him was putting all the, the cheese or whatever toppings that go, and the next one was putting it into the oven. Now it was a very, very clear example of a work system from left to right. So that's how things are when we go for shopping also. That's what happens. So here is the slide. Let's see what we have here. We go back and we see this one. So here, so if you see now, same way, this person is giving his order. He's on the left side. This is what we do even at McDonald's, right? You give the order and then you move on to the right side and you collect your order. So this is how work systems are used in our day-to-day lives also. So why not use it for our kids? I mean, it's always better. It's always helpful. I also remember I'd once gone to Star Bazaar and there was this person who was, having fishes there. So you have to pick up the fish. One person will wash the fish, the second person, and under the, under everything it was labeled, wash the fish, do this, do that. So those people can read, write, understand. They are like, very well functioning adults, but still those visual cues were used, in their work system also. This is how, like a mall where we go and we order and how we collect. So the same thing, it's left to right, top to bottom. This is an example of how a child will finish activity 1, he will finish activity 2. First he'll finish activity 1, put it on the table, and then put it into this finish basket on his right side. So we're going left to right. Okay, then he'll finish activity number 2, put it on the table, finish it off, go into the finish basket. So that's how it is. And then when he finishes all 3 of them, he knows that the task is done and he can go away. Now, the only difference in this is, if you read the title, it says it's independent work system, because most parents, when they come to me and they ask me, let me just stop this, come back to you again, 1 minute. Here I am. Okay. So most parents, they usually ask me that, what do we do when the child has a free time? What do you do in leisure? Okay. So we start with what you just saw. The child sits facing the wall. Okay. And the tasks are given. Now, in the example that we just saw, there were 3 things. I will start with just one worksheet, finish one worksheet, face the wall, put it on the table, finish your task, put it into the finish basket. You can take a break. So that's how you start off and then gradually increase the number of tasks that the child does. So it could be finish 3 activities and then take a break, or it would be, work for say half an hour and then take a break. I will build it gradually. I'll start with 5 minutes, let the child finish, get independent, let the child be able to do it without asking me. Initially, I will be standing behind the child and gradually I'll move away towards the door and then I'll be out of the room. I wouldn't be even in the same room as the child is, and I'll let the child complete it. Let's see what's next that we have here. 1 minute. And I go again and I go to my screen. Here it is. Wonderful. So this is another one, the same way as I mentioned that, this is, who's this boy? This is girl, Alice's independent work. So now this is the schedule, which is like top to bottom. So this would be one activity that the child has to do, match it with this box. So pick it up, match it with this box, see what is there in it, complete it and put it somewhere here in the finish basket. Then there's another one, match it here, finish this task, put it into the finished basket. So that's an independent work system where the child faces a wall or faces a blank surface. It really helps teaching the child to do their homework and other stuff independently. And you know what? I have worked with kids who've been like really, let me come back again, 1 minute. Oops, where am I? I'm here, and yeah. So what I was saying was I've worked with kids who've been like really severe. I'm talking about kids who are very severe on the autism spectrum. And I have taught them how to use work systems. So there's no question, to think whether my child will be able to do it. If a child is high functioning, he'll definitely do it. Even if he's not high functioning, if you know how to train your child, he will learn or she will learn how to complete the task on his own. So, it's a lovely tool that TEACCH is, Let me see what's next now. And we go ahead to the next slide. Now, routines and strategies. It says compensates for poor organization. So, if I have a child who's not able to organize, then I can use the schedule. It'll help them to sequence. It'll help them to do problem solving with the blank card that I spoke about. Checking the schedule and following the work system are two powerful routines which build independence and flexibility. It includes the spatial or sequencing organization of working from left to right and top to bottom. So let me give you an example. I have this 1 minute. So I had this friend who works, I can't remember which country was that, and he works with kids with autism. Now he works in that adult section, where it's like a respite area where the kids, the teenagers or the adolescents are left on a Saturday or a Sunday in his center where he works, which is a government run by the government. So the kind of job that he does is just that they have a schedule. They follow the schedule for the full day. There's a part day schedule, like as I mentioned, 4 things at one time. So they just follow that schedule. And for the 2 days or the 3 days that the child is there, or for the 5 days that the child is there, they're just following the schedule, and the child is learning to become independent. If there's something that the child comes and says what to do, they just say, go and check your schedule. So it was done so much that the child has now learned how to keep themselves busy in the free time, how to do the task, when to do the task, how long to do the task, and there are absolutely no tantrums or meltdowns because it's very clear, to the child or to the adult or to the adolescent about what is expected, Moving ahead, and I go back here, and visually structured, I think we did this. Points to remember: take a step back, use visual, not auditory, to give information. Now it's very important, it's a small little thing. It took me a lot of time to understand what it is. See, when I'm saying, when it says not auditory and visual, see, because when I say, parents usually tell me, हाँ मैंने तो बोला था, parent को, बच्चे को तो पता है, my child was told that this is what's going to happen, he would know. Yeah, I know he would know, but then it's always better. Why do we have trailers? Why do we trailers of movies, trailers, right? Video movie trailers. Why do we have ads coming up? They're all visual. We see movies, they are visual. Thing that is said, the child wouldn't remember as much as what he would retain and remember when it is shown. So you can just draw, have a pencil or whatever in your hand, and you can just show it to the child about what it is. So very important point. I think the major things to remember out of this whole visual, the teach thing, is predictability, visual cues, and very important is visual, and only visual. Auditory is helpful, but visual and auditory together works like a magic. It really works like a magic. So now let me go back to that screen and let's see what I was speaking about. So I was speaking about use visual, not auditory, to give information, get student back into structure, reduces social pressure. I can have activities which say, your time out, it's your time, me time, you choose what you want to do. That's what it would be. Do not attempt to teach during behavior problems. So like if I have a child who's having a major tantrum, 1 minute. So if I have a child who's having a major tantrum, that time if I go with a schedule, it's not going to help. It will only help when the child is settled. Like as I told you before, I see teach as an antecedent strategy and not as a consequence strategy in the A, B, and C. Okay, so that's about the thing here. 1 second. Going back to the application window and sharing it with you. I think that's it. I think I've covered it all, and it's just done this 40 minutes. Let me know if you have any questions we can discuss with respect to your child. If you have any questions, do let me know. Let me come back to my live thing. Can I see it? Beverly, are there any questions that parents have?
No, not yet.
So let's wait and let's see if there are any questions. I would be more than happy to answer to the questions that you have right now for your particular child. You can put it into the chat. There is a chat section there. If you're using it from your mobile, from the YouTube, what is it called, the app, you will have a chat option there. You can put in your question and then I could answer to you. No, I think I'm somewhere else. Here I am. So I have, you will have to click on the control room. Okay, 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 okay. Any questions? How can we handle things when there are sudden changes? I too missed most of it. We were at a different link. Can you share the slides? So Sudha, I will see how to share the slides. It's the first time that I'm doing it. I have no idea. I will, the slideshow, of course, can be shared. Beverly would send it to you. You give the email. So slideshow will be shared with you, definitely. Sonal, coming back to your question, how to handle sudden changes. I think, the major thing that I would say is to keep calm. That's what it is. Because when there are sudden changes, I feel we get stressed out more than what the kids do. And if there are tantrums, just first to understand if it's a tantrum or a meltdown. Are the sudden changes because you have got stressed out, or if it's too overwhelming for the child? So just move out of the setup, move out of that environment and calm down the child and then talk to the child. But see, it takes time. It will take time. So it's better that if we start using the visual schedule and the teach approach and we do it over a period of 3 to 6 months, you would see that the child will get used to, and then a sudden change would mean a blank surprise card or a blank card or a surprise card. I hope this helps. Let me know if you have anything else to ask me. Like, say I go down the lift and I've forgotten something, and when I try to explain my child I have to get back, he gets upset. Yeah, so that's exactly what I said, Sonal, that these things would happen when you've already worked on using the schedule for say 3 to 4 months, and the child has got used to it. And when you've done that all, and then when you're going down, you carry that portable visual schedule with you, and suddenly you remove the card and say, oh, surprise, mama forgot. So it won't just happen. It has to be worked upon. That's what I see it as, and that's how I have done it. Um, Let me know if you have any other question. So Ananya says weekday activities and weekend activity schedules are different now. How to prepare the child without making them confused? Great. So it's a very lovely question, Ananya. I would suggest using the calendar. What I would do is I would put Monday to Friday. Suppose now this is what I do, and I've seen it work with kids. I would put Monday to Friday, say, of blue color on the calendar, okay, where only one thing is showing at a time. And the visual schedule cards that I use, the cards at the back which have those velcros, would be blue in color. And if I have Saturday, Sunday, maybe that's red, then I would use that to be of red color. So if the child says, they have a different color demarcation, so they know what it is. And I think it depends on your child whether you want to use, like Agni, if I'm talking about, I would use preferably even icons. I'm sure he understands very well. So icons or photographs, I think he will get it if you use different color background cards for a visual schedule. I have known parents who carry it like a fabric they have, on which the velcro is stitched. You know what I'm saying? So it's like stitched and the cards are put on it, and they carry it into the bag or the child's bag. That is how it is. In fact, you can have a different two bags. I know of these kids who go to an activity class and they have a green bag, and they have school would be a blue bag. So the blue schedule goes in the blue bag, which is a weekend activity. That is what it is. See, again, there are a lot of changes that happen in our day-to-day activities also. So and it may suddenly change, as Sonal said. But then if you've used it for 2-3 months, believe me, I've used it like with a very severe child who was completely non-verbal, did not understand anything at all, and we moved to a level where he could do work systems very well. He could move from changes, he could adjust to changes very well. So those are the things that help. But I think it needs practice, and it really then works out. Say maybe 1 or 2 months, if you give to your child, choose what you feel works better, the text or the picture or the icon or the object is a little inconvenient, but the pictures work wonders. Let me see if there are more questions. Let me know if, Ananya, that helps you. Questions that I've put verbally. Reshma, how to use visual schedule within another. Say one of the morning schedule is sensory diet, and for sensory diet, 4 activity. Okay, so Reshma, if I have a visual schedule, one is a morning schedule. Yeah, so you'll use work system, no? Like what we did. See, visual schedule is different and a work system is different, right? So I could have a different way of doing it. So I could have a sensory diet, and under that you could draw those pictures. It's okay, the child will understand, and also, see, I wouldn't show the complete morning schedule at one time. I would show, as I said, only 4 things at one time, and you know believe me, my drawings are bad, they're pathetic, but whatever I used to draw, my kids used to understand. They knew what I was talking about. So I would say, show the complete morning schedule, and then you say, right now we're doing sensory diet. Okay, so that's the schedule that you have on the what you call, on the wall or wherever that you have. And then the sensory diet, each activity would be drawn, and it could be cancelled, it could be ticked, whatever you feel works best for your child. And they understand. Don't have too many pictures at one time. Max would be 4, that's it. Reshma, I think I have answered you. Nas Wajid says he doesn't understand the difference between water and other flowing things. The moment he sees something flowing, he thinks it's water and want to jump, as he loves playing with water. So I think, Nas, I would call you Nas. So Nas, I think that's a different kind of a question, which is not related to the teach approach. I would love to answer that, but in my future videos, I will tell Beverly to make a note of this. What Nas has asked, okay, Beverly, if you could take that question down and put it down, and I will definitely cover this in my next live session that I have. Where I would be just talking about how to handle behaviors. Yeah, because there it seems it's about self control, it's about self regulation, it is about receptive language. So there is a lot of stuff that needs to be explained. You could email me, you could email us, info@khushi.net.in. I will chat it, I'll put that into the chat message, and send me the concerns specifically with details, and I will help you out. But right now, let's try and talk only about teach. Okay, Nas? Going back to Sonal Mantri. My child is obsessed of scattering objects. I explained him to play only one game at a time, but he likes to scatter everything on the floor. Can you help me? Okay, so Sonal, again, when I say this thing, it requires 2 to 3 months of practice for the child to know what it is. But when the child wants to scatter it all around, I see it more like a sensory thing, where the child would need more of sensory integration, more work on self-regulation, and some work on primitive reflex integration. When I work on these 3 things, the child will stop scattering, and then I can use the visual schedule. So, visual schedule will be like more of a cognitive strategy. Sensory integration will be more of a physiological kind of an activity, where the child has that self control, where the child is calmer, is relaxed. So with your son Sonal Mantri, I feel the child needs more of sensory integration, primitive reflex integration, which I would be talking, I'm planning to do this every 15 days. So I would be talking about these things also, and you could email us and I could try and answer to you. Going back to the next question, I have Ramya. Reason for asking about high functional, my son does not want to sit for any activity or schedule and makes it a big issue. So sometimes I don't know if it's a tantrum or some auditory issue. Okay, so I would, 1 minute, whose question was that? That was Ramya's. So Ramya, what I would suggest is, one is that if you could see my video where I think I've uploaded, it's called tantrums versus meltdown. So first is you need to know if it's a tantrum or if it's a meltdown, that is one thing. 2, so that is one thing. What was the other part of your question? It says, does not want to sit for any activity or schedule and makes it a big issue. So if the child sensory problem. So we'll talk about that. But then if I've understood that it is that the child has difficulty sitting at one place, if that is what it is, then I would want to work upon sensory integration. I would want to work upon integrating senses. I may also include therapeutic listening if it's an auditory issue. When I combine them all together, you will see that the sitting tolerance will start coming in. The child will start sitting. And if I have to use a visual schedule for your child, Ramya, I would use one activity maybe just one activity. It could be just fixing 3 blocks and the child goes away. That's it. And then gradually increasing it. From 3, I go to 6 blocks. From 6, I go to 10 blocks. But doing it every day. It's the consistency that would be important. And, the boys that I'm talking about with whom I worked using the visual schedule, they were the kids at that time. That was like, I'm speaking about in my earlier years, when I was not using so much of sensory integration and self-regulation strategies, I used only teach. And that boy was quite hyper. He would not sit at one place. And I remember fixing just one block on top of the other, and I would allow him to go. And I would say, your time, you choose what you want. The next day, I would say 3 activities, 3 blocks today. And then I would allow him to go. So the child was very clear, and the child trusted me. He knew after 3 she's going to leave me. So that's another important thing. So I start with a very small goal and gradually build it up. At the same time, I would work on the sensory issues if they are the reasons why the problems are in place or the challenging behaviors are in place. I hope that helps you, Ramya. uh, he does not like same activity same day. He prefers different ones daily. Okay, so that's okay. That's absolutely fine. Even if he wants different activities different day, you do it like that. Every day you do different activities for 2 months, and then add up the blank card where he chooses, and you add up a surprise card with good surprises initially, and later boring surprises. Okay, oh god, same old boring activity again today. But he will know because he's been following the schedule, so he will do it, Ramya. But give him say 2-3 months, and I'm very sure, let me know after 3 months, if you've been using it consistently, you will see he will be able to do it. Coming back to the next one, Ramya ka ho gaya question. 1 minute. Yes, sensory issues are there, but he can sit for long. I have one child. So you know what, Ramya? One more thing I would like to say, that if the sensory issues are there and he can sit, it is difficult for the child to sit. He will do it, but imagine, no, if I have to do something that's difficult for me, I would choose to do thing which is easy for me rather than do something that's difficult. So I think it's I'm not saying that we wait till the sensory issues are resolved. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that it's better that we work hand in hand together. So we add up the teach and we add up the sensory together. That's what it would be. And consistency and a lot of visual stuff. Yeah. Going to the next question, I have one child with autism and one with SPD with mild symptoms of autism. Both are absolutely different. I'm having high time not knowing how to schedule activities between both of them. I know it's very difficult to do that. So I think that they're teaching us to become more organized. So maybe you could use a visual schedule for yourself first. You could make notes for yourself first. Plan a day before, a night before you go off to sleep, about what is it that you want to do for them the next day. But believe me, Naz, these are not what I would say, it doesn't stay forever. You work on it and your kid will start improving. They will start doing. I think he's just teaching you to organize yourself. So you could have your own diary with your to-dos, with your visual schedules. And if you feel it's too much, start with one child at a time. Don't do two of them. Start with one child at a time. Give 2 months to using the schedule and all. And, keep yourself calm, because, many times we feel guilty that we're not doing enough, and that guilt doesn't allow us to do what we really want to do. So start with maybe one child. You see how it works well for you. You can start with both together. You could do with one at a time. Start with one child, do it for 2 months. When this child has got into the routine and structure, start with the other child. I think those are techniques which you could try it out, and you can mail us if you need any more details on that, which is another thing that I would cover, Beverly, we should cover in my future things, which would be about how to have the me time, so that I can give a good what I would say, I can be a good parent to my children. That's what it is, because guilt is a major factor that keeps coming. uh, so for now, I think it's a self-forgiveness, not forgiveness, I would say, but then the fact that I can do it and just going at your pace. Let's go to the next question. Uh, Sarda, in spite of a regular school making him write even one sentence is such a tedious task, what else can be done? In spite of a regular schedule. So I would first check if the schedule has been explained to the child very well. That is one. Has it been explained auditorily by speaking, or has it been explained by written? If it is written every day and at a time only four things have been explained, then even when I'm doing my writing, has it been told very clearly that we do it for 10 minutes only, or we do it for 5 minutes only, or to be very specific, we'll do just one page and then it's your break time. So I would suggest just add up a lot of visuals there and be very clear with how much work, how long to sit, when will he get done, and pair up an activity which he likes after his what you call writing task. So I could have maybe going down and play, which kids love. That could happen after writing. So the child will finish it fast so that he can go down and play. So I think uh, making it more visual. Let me know if it helps you, Sharda, or if you want me to give you more details, I would be happy to. Fayaz Sultana, shall he shake? He understand the things but not use this to communicate. How can I help him? I know. So, typically when the child has autism, this is what happens. The child knows it, but he doesn't. So that's what therapy would help. A lot of parallel talking would help. That's not what would come in today's scope. But I think if you use the visual schedule, I've had kids where they come, with that. So there's this boy that I've worked with, and what we did is, now this we use it as specs majorly, but I would share this with you, because what we did was, in the kitchen we had pictures of all the things that he loved to eat. On the main door we had pictures of all the places where he would love to go, and in his room we had pictures of things that he would love to do, puzzles, blocks, whatever. And whenever he was in the kitchen, the mother would ask him, what do you want? And he would just take the picture and he would give. So that is what could be used. Your speech therapist can guide you better. She would know whether it's the speech that needs to be worked upon, sign language that needs to be worked upon, PECs that needs to be worked upon. So that is what would help your child. Fayaz Sultana. We have, I think that's it. I think I'm done with questions. Do we have more? Nas says, I feel I'm not concentrating enough on the other. If I'm just concentrating on the other one, I feel awful that I'm not doing that. So you know what, Nas, I would say that's a common thing that all parents feel, and it's okay. We all feel that we are not doing our best, but I think you're giving in your best, the best that you can do. The days that you're feeling awful, just write it down, about what is it that you felt awful about, and write down what is it that you did for the other one. Sometimes it's just about that. I would just say, don't fall into that negative self-talk. The moment you see that it's happening, write it down, pen it down, and I'm sure you will get it out of it. The worst mistake that any parent does, including me, is that we start feeling guilty that we are not doing enough, and that makes us feel frustrated. And the worst part is that frustration goes back on the child, making us feel even more guilty. So it goes like a cycle. So I mean, it's in our hands. So that's okay. We are all in the same boat as you are. So that's absolutely okay, Nas. My older one improving, but the younger one is like he sits at one place and feels upset that I am busy with the older one teaching and doing things. If I talk to him, he just walks away. Yeah, I know. So I think it's just about the balance. So it's just about the balance. We'll work on. Oops, I'm stuck. Am I stuck? Yeah, no, I'm not stuck. Okay, sorry. So I think it's just about, we'll have this topic also. We will talk about this. So we will put that down, that how will we balance as a parent. But I feel the major thing is to just have a lot of attitude, कि I'm doing my best, and just be very vigilant if that self-talk is becoming negative, because that will eat your self-esteem. Okay, Nas, then we have another question. We too have two kids on the spectrum. Both have different sensory needs. The visual schedules for both are different. But in case we need to take them both to a similar situation, how do we schedule them? It's okay. Put a schedule of church in both the schedules. That's all, you know. see, even if you're going to the same place, the schedule for both of them would be different, no? And if you have different schedules for both your kids, I would suggest take the color. So Janice, I think it's about your two kids. So I would take a pink color thing for a girl and I would take a blue color thing for a boy. So even they know that that is their schedule, they do not mix it up. And you could have the same picture of church at both the places, which is okay. I hope that helps you. Let me know if there's anything else. Um, Welcome so much, Nas. What else do we have? I think I've covered all. Sorry, Suman. It is good to face the child in the beginning before transitioning. Yeah, of course. So, Suman, when I'm talking about the 1 minute again, 1 minute, 1 minute. Okay. So, Suman, when I'm talking about the what you call independent work system, that would happen after I've done 3-4 months of the work systems where the child has learned to sit. The child has learned to sit next to me and complete the task. So the sitting facing the wall, facing the whatever blank surface would definitely happen after 2, 3, or maybe 4 months, depending on how long your child takes to master the other the physical structure and other things. And once you feel he's confident and he can follow the top to bottom and left to right independently, that's when you move to independent. So independent is much later depending on your child's level. So that's Suman. Ananya says bang on. Thank you, Ananya. Sharda, Ramya, Sonal, I think I spoke about you also. Reshma, I spoke. Sonal, Sudha. So somebody is asking, what is high functional? High functional is a child who's able to do things, who's learning faster, who's learning things at a very fast pace, like how any other child would learn. There are some kids who take time to learn. So high functioning are the ones who are towards the borderline inner spectrum. That's what I would say. Who are functioning and who are able to do their self-care, self-help skills independently, who are able to do the academics to a great extent independently, manage space around, go to the neighborhood, buy stuff, go to a shop, go to outside places independently. That's what I mean by high functional, who can do things independently. When I say child who's not very high functional, it's a child who will need help with bathing, brushing, toileting, grooming, eating, going out, everything. But if it depends on the age of the child also. If it's a little child, he will need that help. But if it's an older child who needs a lot of help, I would not call them high functioning. I hope that helps you. Now, I think I've done all the questions. So let me know if there's anything else left, or we can just stop this and oops, 1 minute. Jana, thank you so much, Reena, for this session. Really helpful, taking a lesson. Can we have these sessions at fixed timings? Second Saturday. What I would recommend is you tell me which is the day that works fine. I thought a weekday would work fine because on Saturdays, what happens is kids are at home. The major reason I'm doing this live is whenever I tried doing it at Khushi, people found it difficult to come, especially who were from far off places. So if you feel Saturday is good, I would do it on every Saturday, every second and fourth Saturday, or maybe every first and third Saturday, or weekday. So you could put in your we could just take a poll and we'll see what works out best. I'm okay to do it on a Saturday or on a weekday. I had thought of Wednesdays 10 to 12, but if you feel Saturday, every second and fourth Saturday works out best, let's keep that as a timing with different topics. You could give me your topics which you feel are important, and I could we could do a slideshow on that and we can talk in details about that. Yeah. What else do we have? Will this video be available even later? It'll be really helpful. Sonal, you know what? I don't know what kind of video quality is this. I don't know the audio quality. I'll check it. If it is good, I will make it available. If it is not good, because this is the first time that I'm doing it, if it is really good, I will keep it, or I will keep it unlisted. I will share it with the people who want it as an email. I would give you the link That's what I would do. So that's what can be done for sure. I wouldn't keep it public if the video quality and the audio quality is not very good, which I'm just trying to work on. Yeah. Um, Weekday would also work. Point was to request if we could do at a prefix timings. Weekdays would be helpful like this. Yeah, so I thought of every which Wednesdays, every alternate Wednesdays. So if today is a Wednesday, then the Wednesday after that again we'll have. So every fortnight I was thinking of doing it 10 to 12. That's what I have thought of. So it's a fixed timing every Wednesday, because on weekends, yeah, kids are at home. In fact, even my son will be at home. I won't be able to sit as comfortably as I am sitting right now. There are too many disturbances. So I would also prefer a weekday rather than a weekend. Yeah, I think we're done with questions. My question two about availability of video, it'll be very helpful. Great. So thank you so much. It was awesome. It was nice. It was amazing to answer your questions. And we will meet up on which date is that? 2nd November now. 1st November, sorry. Let me just check my phone if you allow me to. 1 minute. I would be seeing, ideally it is 25th October, but that's the Diwali week. So that's why we are not planning to do it. And we are planning to do it on 1st November, 10 to 12. That's what I'm planning to do. Yeah, so that's what it is. Give me 1 more minute. I have some, give me a minute. I think that's it. Yeah, so we'll do it on 1st November, 10 in the morning on Wednesday. We will be keeping this, we would be putting it beforehand. Beverly will do it. This time we did not put it live everywhere because I first want to check how it is coming across. So we're doing it only with people I know very well and who will allow me to do the mistakes. Yeah. So thank you so much. It was awesome. I'm ending the broadcast. Let me check if there are any messages. I think no messages. Lovely. So bye bye all. Have a great day. See you.